So with a compassionate vow to enter and learn all Dharma gates so that we can end all delusions, so that we can become Buddha's way, so that we can save all beings. We can listen to the teaching in this spirit. Hongzhi Zhengjue Zuochanzhen Wanshi Shogaku's Zazenshin in Japanese. Spacious wisdom, true awakenings, acupuncture needle for sitting meditation in English. I forgot one of Dogen's comments. And I'm kind of just, selecting some because he goes on, right? But Dogen had a little comment on the title, Acupuncture Needle of Zazen, that I liked. He says, this needle, this lancet, this probe is the time before your parents were born. What time was that? That time before our parents were born is this acupuncture needle. It's the way the Dogen like to talk. So I'll read the whole poem of Hongzhi to start, and then we can pick up where we left off. It's actually a 12-line poem. We went through the first 4 lines, but they repeat themselves. The essential function of all Buddhas, the functional essence of all ancestors, is knowing without touching things, is illumining without facing objects. Knowing without touching things, the knowing is naturally subtle. Illumining without facing objects, the illumining is naturally wondrous. The knowing and naturally subtle is ever without discriminating thought. The illumining, naturally wondrous, is ever without a hair's breadth of separation. Ever without discriminating thought, this knowing is singular without comparison. Ever without a hair's breadth of separation, this illumining is complete without grasping. The water is clear right through to the bottom. A fish goes slowly, slowly. The sky is vast without horizon. A bird flies far, far away. Maybe hearing this a few times, you can start to hear the repetition. It's, Hongzhi does this nice thing with these couplets. There's this pair, and then he'll take like a piece of each line from the pair and use that piece for the next 2 lines and add to it, and then add another piece of those 2 lines down here and add to that. You maybe have to see it written to see how he does that, but it's a wonderful style of poetry. And then in Dogen's Shobogenzo essay, Dogen says, this is the best acupuncture needle ever, but and it can't really be improved on, but nevertheless, I'm going to write my own. And then so Dogen writes his own Zazenshin in the same style as Hongzhi, with these couplets that keep building on each other. And it starts with almost the same lines and ends with the same. It's another very accurate acupuncture needle. So here we've reached the line, knowing without touching things. The knowing is naturally subtle, or inherently, innately subtle. Dogen doesn't, because these lines repeat, Dogen doesn't comment on these next two lines. Illumining without facing objects. This illumining is naturally, inherently, innately wondrous. So this knowing, this illumining, I think two different names for the same presence. This one right now that we share with Dogen and Hongzhi and all the Buddhas and ancestors. It's subtle. In a way, you could say, but it's just where it's always here. Isn't that kind of like in our face? It doesn't seem very subtle. It's, in fact, everywhere we look, all we see is this knowing. All we ever experience is this knowing. How could anything be less subtle? See what I mean? It's like so vividly clear. It's never hidden. But it's subtle because it seems to be hidden by all our experiences. When we get caught up in the so-called objects, it seems to be hidden, and we, wait a second, awareness is here all the time, and it always seems to be the same. It seems to be subtle, and it seems to be wondrous. Wondrous and mysterious. But at the same time, the more we get used to it, the more it's so ordinary. It's not really wondrous. What's wondrous is that a bird can sing and we think it's out there. But this knowing is also sometimes called ordinary mind. Ordinary mind is the way. Same point here. This, you can't aim towards this ordinary mind, and you can't escape this ordinary mind. And it's very ordinary in the sense that it's always here. But when we forget that and discover it again, it seems wondrous. So then, picking up on these lines, Hongzhi continues, the knowing, inherently subtle, naturally subtle, is ever without discriminating thought or thinking. Always, already, without discriminating thought. So we say, well, where does discriminating thought come in? Here's a bunch of discriminating thoughts. Anytime we're talking, there's a bunch of discriminating thoughts. So they are the expression, the activity of this unchanging illumination of this ever-present knowing. The activity of this knowing is seeing colors, hearing sounds, and discriminating thoughts is one of the activities or functions of knowing. But we could say the actual knowing, the essence of knowing itself is without discriminating thought. And yet it can and does appear as discriminating thought. Its function is discriminating thought, but the essence itself is not discriminating. And so Dogen's comment on this line. thought itself is knowing without dependence on another's power. I think another's power here would just be like, we're talking about other, and other's power, which could just be an object or a that seems to be other, or a person who seems to be other and is talking to us, something like that. So Dogen says, the thought itself is the knowing, right? The essence of the thought is nothing other than awareness. And so ultimately, this thought does not depend on anything other than itself. Usually we think that this thought depends on, like, I see the tree over there, and then I think, oh, that tree is turning a little brown. It could use some rain. So my thought, my discriminating thought, is dependent on that other tree over there. But Dogen's saying, if we look carefully, the discriminating thought is just a bubbling up of knowing. It's just awareness expressing itself as this thought. A tree could use some water, but the tree itself is knowing. And the thought itself is knowing. There is no other. Thought itself is knowing without dependence on the power of another, Dogen says. Knowing is the thought's shape or form. Maybe we say form. Knowing is the thought's form. I was kind of expressing how the thought is kind of like a form or shape of knowing, kind of an expression or shape of this shapeless knowing. There's this shapeless, boundless, formless awareness, and that it has the ability to express itself, to function as a thought or an image or a sound or something like this. But here, Dogen's kind of reversing it when he says, knowing is the thought's form or shape. You could say the true, what is the true shape of a thought? The true shape of a thought is just knowing. Dogen talks this way. Knowing is the thought's form, and its form is the mountains and rivers. You could spend a lifetime on any of these sentences, right? Each one is like a koan you could sit with for eternity. Knowing is the thought's form, and its form is the mountains and rivers. Of course, this is also hard because it's translated from this very different language than English, but I think that probably does a pretty good justice. And it's something, it seems to me, it's something about Dogen really examining, there's this unchanging space of awareness. It functions as thought about a tree or a mountain, and then this thought about the mountain is the mountain and the river. Some relationship between the all-encompassing boundless awareness, the thoughts that appear within the awareness, and then the mountains and rivers that appear within the awareness. Almost as if the way that awareness manifests as mountains and rivers is through the activity of thought. The way its boundless potential, radiant suchness, we call awareness, the way that that expresses itself as mountains and rivers is through human thought and like naming, like, oh, look, there's a mountain. So that it's not really a mountain, but for there's the thought mountain. So the mountain, in a sense, depends on the thought mountain, and the thought arises as the expression of non-discriminating awareness. These are subtle meditations. The next line of Hongzhi is, the illumining, inherently wondrous, innately wondrous, naturally wondrous. It is ever without a hair's breadth of separation or a hair's breadth of sign. Is another translation. It is ever without the tiniest bit of grasping or fixation, separation. Signs are kind of like that aspect of objects by which we get a hold of them. So sounds a little different from separation, but maybe that's the most accessible translation. The illumining, naturally wondrous. It's ever without the tiniest separation. You could say separation into duality. And Dogen's comment is, clarify the essential meaning apart from the theory, or clarify the essential origin apart from the theory. Do not grasp it with words. This is illumining. So here we're into this issue of signs and words and theories, and but this illumination, this knowing, doesn't have even the slightest discrimination or theory or word, and we should try to clarify this true meaning, the source, apart from theories and words. So might say, well, but then why is Kokyo talking so much? All these details, all this, conceptual elaboration, highly elaborated elaboration. Using words to kind of like slide under words. And I think the poetic feel of both Hongzhi and Dogen is quite nice. For you can't quite get a hold of it, but maybe you have some feeling for it. And if we get into actual methods of meditation, like this morning, I brought up the, I think, a very practical method of approaching this whole issue of Zazen as asking ourselves, is awareness present? Well, one could argue that's just using some conceptual question. And it's a good point. So it is using concepts and words, but hopefully we're using fine-tuned words that that take us to a place without words. In this case, the place called awareness. Is awareness present? Okay, there's some words. Like we follow the words. They're not just random words. They're not just sound. They're actually, what's the meaning of that question? Is awareness present? Is it present now? Awareness. What is this awareness and knowing? Is it present now? So we start with the words, and the words turn the light around, and then we sink into the actual reality of awareness. But we use the words to take us there. Maybe there's still some words kind of swimming around it that we say, is this it? It seems too simple. Or something like that. I say, okay, that's okay. That you can just let go of that sentence now and just taste the direct experiencing that we call awareness or knowing. And then if we can, in this vipassana kind of meditation, where inquiry meditation, it is this kind of issue. Like we have to kind of use some words, but the words are not, it's not an intellectual investigation, is the point I think Dogen's making here too. He's writing all this stuff about Zazen, but I don't think he's saying, you got to get all the concepts and saying there are all these direct pointers that come packaged in words to a non-conceptual direct experience. So we can, like another investigation, once we're present with awareness, as awareness, we're verifying the presence of awareness. This is possible actually quite easily, like right now. Is awareness present? Am I experiencing? Is there knowing? Yeah. Are you sure about that? Yeah, sure. 99% or 100%? 100%. Awareness is here. It's not the slightest doubt. And it's very ordinary. It's not such a big deal. But then we can call it, this is direct verification of awareness. That's awesome. Direct, non-conceptual, authentic verification of the presence of awareness. I would say so. It's pretty easy to have a direct verification. We say, cool, now am I enlightened? Can I go home? No. This is just like the basic sense of being aware. But there's more to the story. We could ask another question. Is this awareness limited? Does it have edges or boundaries? Comes in a kind of words, comes in concepts, discriminating concepts. But we can start checking experientially. Does this very awareness that we are right now, can I find any edges or boundaries or location? Is this awareness like stuffed into my skull and it's oozing out my ears, especially my mouth? No. Or is it not a thing? It's not inside the skull. We can look and experientially, not theoretically, experientially investigate. No, I don't actually, I know I have confirmed 100% that awareness is here. But how strange. Something I'm confirming 100%, actually don't know where it is. It doesn't have any location. I've never verified anything that I can't find in a location ever before. But this seems to be true. And now it's like a little bit different than the awareness that we first discovered. It maybe felt slightly like it was stuffed into our skull. This one's like kind of big mind. We can verify that too. And is that the end of the story? No, there's more to it. That's why Dogen like wrote all these essays and the Buddha taught all these sutras. Even if it's pretty good if we can verify big mind that this awareness is present right now and it's completely unlocated, which is kind of the same thing as saying it's boundless. It doesn't have any edges. If it had a location, I think then it would have to have edges or boundaries. We can explore how these are kind of synonyms: boundless, centerless, locationless, are all kind of either not exactly synonyms, but all imply each other. We explore this experientially, but we start with the words. So this is all to say that when Dogen says, clarify the meaning, the origin, apart from the theories, don't grasp it with words. This is the illuminating itself. But he says this in words, just like these investigations can start with words that point to the wordless direct verification. And that might not even be that challenging as meditators to verify that this awareness right now is unlocated and boundless. But that, I think the trickier part that a lot of this conversation of Hongzhi and Dogen is about is now the relationship between this boundless awareness and all these things, all these experiences that are happening, arising and ceasing, that seem to be about a world out there, outside of awareness, exploring that relationship of the unchanging, boundless essence and the changing dynamic function, that relationship, that interfusion of those two is where non-duality really comes alive. And this is a lifetime practice, maybe many lifetimes. Maybe we've already been doing this for many lifetimes, and that's why we're here. It could be the last lifetime. It could be the first lifetime. It could be that all lifetimes are just the dynamic play of the unborn awareness. Hongzhi's next line. Without discriminating thought, this knowing is singular without comparison. Another translation is, this knowing is rare without peer, or extraordinary without match. I kind of like, this knowing is singular without comparison. It's just one reality, all inclusive. So it can't be compared to anything, because anything it could be compared to is within it, just an aspect of it. Next line is, ever without a hair's breadth of sign or separation, the illumining is complete without grasping, or the illumining is evident without grasping. The illumination is complete and whole lacking nothing. And we don't need to grasp anything to spiff it up. So Dogen doesn't comment on these lines because they appear in the next lines. So, or they were kind of covered in the previous lines. And now we reach the last two about the fish and the bird. To kind of get a more poetic feeling. The water is clear right through to the bottom. The water is clear, pervading all the way to the bottom. The clarity pervades to the bottom. It's like tropical ocean where you scuba diving, you can see hundreds of feet down without the slightest pollution. Deep water. The water is clear right through to the bottom. A fish goes slowly, slowly, or a fish goes lazily along. So picture a vast, clear ocean. The clarity pervades in all directions and all the way to the bottom. And in the midst of this clear ocean, a fish swims, goes slowly, slowly, lazily along. Zazen is like this boundless, clear ocean. And in the midst of that ocean, a little fish can arise, a little fish called inquiry fish, a little fish slowly through this ocean and asks about this ocean that it's swimming in. Is this ocean anything other than me, myself? Does this ocean have any edges? Is this ocean always the same? Day? Slowly, the ocean itself can function as this little fish swimming slowly through it, enjoying the ocean and investigating the ocean as it swims. So Dogen's comment is right through to the bottom means water with no shore. Ocean with no shoreline. Again, no edges or boundaries. The fish's going is immeasurable and inexhaustible. There is no shoreline by which to gauge the fish's going. So if the fish was swimming kind of along the shoreline, you could look over and at the people's legs on the beach there and be like, okay, I passed that one. Yeah, I got to this one. I passed like 10 different legs of people. I must have gone about 10 feet through the ocean. So they can get, because there's some edge to the ocean, some shoreline with objects on it, it can gauge its movement, this fish. But when there's no shore on this ocean, the fish is going, but it can't gauge its movement, which is maybe like in the ocean of deep Zazen. There can be movement and exploration through this ocean, but we don't really know where it came from and where it's going. And is this disconcerting for that fish? I don't think so. I think it's more enjoyable for the fish when it's not gauging how much progress it's making or where it started and is going. It's enjoying the ocean with no land in sight. There's no shoreline by which to gauge the going of the fish. And then the next line is, the sky is vast without horizon or without boundary. You can see here, just like knowing and illumining are kind of synonyms, but they're being expanded in this poem. The water and the sky are really kind of synonyms here for the boundless space. And then the essence, the unchanging essence of sky and water, and then the function is this movement through it as either a fish or a bird. So here it's the sky is vast without boundary. A bird flies far, far away. And Dogen comments, neither hidden nor manifest, without outside or inside. This is the meaning of vast sky. Pretty straightforward. Interestingly, normally we think of either something must be hidden or it must be manifest. Things are like that, right? Either this cup is hidden or it's manifest, right? But the sky, the vast sky, is neither hidden nor manifest. When we look at a clear sky, the sky is obviously not hidden. There's the sky, 100% sure. Are you sure? Sky, that's sky. Yeah. Verification of sky. It's not hidden, but also, is it manifest? You know, is it manifest means like something's comes forward as something. The sky like that? No, because it's not really a thing. It's not hidden. And it's not manifest as a thing. That's how awareness is, right? And it's without outside or inside. Knowing, illumining is like this too. There's nothing outside it if it's boundless. And there's nothing inside it. It's a little harder because it seems like, isn't that wonderful if we can see that everything that seems to be outside awareness actually isn't outside. It's very intimate with us. It's inside awareness. It's much more intimate than you being outside awareness. They're separate from me, right? If you're inside my knowing and I'm inside your knowing, then what an intimate meeting we're having. Not even really meeting, because meeting means two different things. Touching, non-touching is most intimate. And so, yeah, nothing outside, but in this case, no inside either, because it's still a little bit like, well, if you are inside me, then there's still a little bit of separation. A lot less than if you are outside me. But what about, you're not outside me, you're not inside me, you are me, I am you. We are one. Yes, 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 we appear as separate appearances and images. What's going on here though is like, if I am you, then you can't be me at the same time, could you? But that's what we're talking about here. It's really quite inconceivable. But could it be so? That is true intimacy. It's like facing a jewel mirror. Form and image behold each other. but you are not really it. In truth, it is you. So Dogen's commenting on the sky without horizon, neither hidden nor manifest, without outside or inside. This is the meaning of vast sky. When a bird flies in this sky, it is the undivided dharma of flying sky. Again, when a bird flies in the sky, it is the single or undivided reality, you could say, of flying sky. In other words, it's not like there's a sky and then there's a bird in it, flying in it. When a bird flies in this sky, it's the undivided reality of flying sky. One undivided reality. And then he goes on, this flying sky is the entire world. It is right here, Dogen says. It's nowhere else. So that's maybe my favorite poem of Hongzhi, and my favorite comments on my favorite poem by Dogen. And it's all just the an acupuncture needle to kind of free up the chi that's flowing through our zazen. The stuck chi in our zazen, this acupuncture needle, if it's placed just so, it frees the blockages of stagnant zazen.